Miss Mattie Merrywinkle, Chapter 13. These Things Happen. When Mattie's self-isolation came to an end, her friend Winnie suggested they celebrate. Winnie's ideas for celebration, or commiseration for that matter, always involved food. Oh, we could take advantage of Dishy Rishy's scheme and treat ourselves to a half-price dinner in town. How about Pat's Pantry? They do a lovely gammon, egg and chips. What do you think, Mattie? Oh, I'm not sure. I still feel a bit nervous about going into town with all those people. Anyway, isn't that sharing tables in cafes just for people who live together in the same bubble, as they say? Is it? But why would you want to eat out with the same people you've been eating in with for the last 6 months? Oh, blimey, I'm not sure now. It does me head in trying to keep up with the rules. Mine too. I'll tell you what. Why don't we go to the cafe in the park instead and treat ourselves to tea and cake? Then we won't have to get on a bus and wear masks and worry about rules. We'll be able to sit outside in the sunshine. All right, you are then. As long as we do something to mark the occasion, I do like a nice bit of cake. Cake, cake, and more cake. They were spoilt for choice. In the end, Mattie went for a large slice of carrot cake with frosting and chopped walnuts on top. Winnie had a slice of Black Forest gateau with extra cream. They settled themselves at a large trestle table in the tea garden, and Mattie propped her bicycle up against a nearby tree. It was a beautiful day. Blue sky, fluffy clouds, and a light breeze. Good idea of yours, Mattie. Winnie shovelled a forkful of gateau into her mouth and continued to talk. By the way, I've been meaning to ask you, how did your Zoom session go the other day? What's your marigold like? Oh, she's lovely. I felt a proud mum, even though I had nothing to do with her upbringing. Maybe not, but she'll have some of your lovely person genes, won't she? Mattie busied herself pouring tea from the pot. Well, I don't know about that, but anyway, she's lovely. No airs and graces or anything. She even found it funny when Gerald tried to get in on the act and stuck his bum in front of the screen. She thought he looked a real character. In fact, she wants to paint him and use him to illustrate one of her books. Blimey, that sounds like you got off to a good start then. And did she ask you about you know what? Or should I say you know who? No, not this time, but we're doing the same thing again next week, and I've been thinking, Winnie, maybe I should raise the subject rather than worrying about when she's going to mention it. Oh, I think you're right, love. After all, she's a grown woman, and these things happen all the time. Mattie looked up sharply. What things? Oh, you know, teachers taking advantage of pupils, that kind of thing. Or are you still planning on pretending that you don't know who the father is? Because I'm sure as eggs is eggs, I do. Mattie spluttered her tea down her t-shirt. Who told you? Nobody, but I knew. He was as subtle as a lump of shit, old lech. Winnie! Mattie was shocked. She'd never heard her friend use language like that before. But Winnie's feathers had been well and truly ruffled. Her face was the colour of beetroot, and she stabbed at the tabletop with her cake fork. Well, it's true. I saw him smarming up to you in art classes, and Charlie told me he'd seen Lech dropping you off long after school one night, but not in front of your house, 2 streets away, the slimy bastard. Winnie! Mattie didn't know whether to laugh or cry. There was something unexpectedly comical about the way her friend was behaving, and the relief of being able to talk openly about it after all these years verged on the edge of hysteria. But the guilt and fear that had been the overriding emotions at the time were also knocking and asking to be let in. Why didn't you tell me you knew? Croaked Mattie. Because I thought you must have good reasons for keeping quiet, despite all the rumours that were flying round about how the father could have been any one of 6 lads. Those of us who knew you well knew that couldn't possibly be true. Mattie concentrated on her cake for a moment or two. And you say Charlie saw me getting out of the car? Was Charlie one of the people that believed the rumours? No, he wasn't. In fact, he almost punched Billy Bickerstaff's lights out when Billy started saying that kind of stuff at the bus stop one night. It's ironic, really, when you think about it. What do you mean? Oh, you know. Or perhaps you don't. It happened when you were working at Willie's and we lost touch for a bit. What happened? Shirley Scrimshite got in the family way and said it was Charlie's, so her dad insisted they got married. No, I didn't know that. I must admit I was a bit surprised when I found out he was married to her. We all were, and the same kind of rumours were going round about her, how the father could have been any one of half a dozen. Except in her case, I think they might have been true. Me and Irene Longshanks reckoned she'd found out she was pregnant by one of her bits of rough, then tricked poor old Gristlechops into doing the deed because she knew he'd stand by her. It's Hesselthrop, Charlie Hesselthrop. Oh, whatever. But like I said, Mattie, these things happen. Your married girl won't have any problem dealing with it as long as you tell her the full story, and I'll be here for you if you need me to back you up. Mattie? But Mattie was miles away. So that's how they ended up together. That scheming Shirley Scrimshike. Well, that's thrown a whole new light on things.